Welcome to lessons from Proverbs 7 to 9. And these books or these chapters actually paint a picture or a portrait of adultery. Again, because like I said, it's been a very common theme so far. And in spite being mentioned 3 times already in the previous chapters we've read, we're seeing adultery come up again. Although this time the seductress and the consequences of getting involved with her are graphically illustrated by the father to his son. Ultimately, the consequence of a lack of wisdom are terrifyingly real. There are several repetitions by the father to the son regarding the path to the house of the adulteress leading to death and destruction. That's from verse 23 of chapter 7. Wisdom is personified in chapter 8 as a means to paint a picture of the contrast between good and evil and between wisdom and folly. Wisdom is personified as a dignified and noble woman who is warm, caring, and competent. She stands at the streets and pleads with her hearers to follow her and learn from her how to take their knowledge about God and apply it to their lives practically. Now, one thing that I realized from studying this particular chapter 8, is that some people took the description of wisdom as a woman literally and believed that wisdom was like a goddess, and but clearly it was like a personification. And there were some things in that in the verses in that chapter that let me know that obviously that's what it was. It wasn't literally a woman. Now, wisdom was a tool in the hand when he created the earth. That's God. It existed far beyond our time. So it was in that chapter where it says, "I was with you when the world was created." And for me, I'd read that before, and I read it with the eyes of understanding that was Christ. That Christ was embodying the wisdom at the time. So for me, the concept of wisdom being a goddess or a woman just didn't apply. The adulteress, back to her, was the path to death, but wisdom says that whoever finds her finds the path to life, and her followers are blessed materially and spiritually. The details of that can be found in chapter 8, 17 to 21. There's a clear positioning of wisdom and folly in this chapter. In 9, both wisdom and folly are personified. They both cry out to the simple and the folly alike, and like the adulteress sits at the door of her house calling out to other simpletons to come in, we see folly doing the same thing. This chapter concludes the father's advice to his son. So chapters 1 to 9 basically were the part of the book of Proverbs that were the advice. A lot of it was about avoiding sexual sin and pursuing wisdom instead. It appears that the father may have been speaking from experience and was passionate about his son not following in his footsteps or making the same mistakes that he did. Considering that Solomon was Solomon of the 1,000 women fame. And some of the mistakes that he made were usually about women. And then considering that he was also the wisest man on earth at the time, I believe that he could have written this. He could have been speaking from his experience in both wisdom and folly, and was offering his son a better choice, or offering his son better choices, because who else would have known all about wisdom but then also known all about what adultery and it could and the devastating effects of the same could be. He most likely learned the value of wisdom and the foolishness of sexual sin at the same time, and was offering that to his son as advice. So here's my hashtag getting to know God lesson. God delights in wisdom. In chapter 8, verses 30 to 31, although speaking of wisdom made me think about Jesus. And that's the part that said, about wisdom being there at creation, But Jesus, who was also with God at creation, was my focus at the time, because the verses read, "Then I was beside him as a master craftsman, and I was daily his delight, rejoicing always before him," rejoicing in his inhabited world, his delight. And my delight was in the Son of Men. Picture the Lord rejoicing over you today, just the same way, like I said, when you read it as Christ, rejoicing at creation over you. And then choose wisdom today. Choose wisdom, because wisdom is the source of rejoicing for God over us, as I chose to interpret it from this verse. Thank you for joining me today. Tomorrow we'll continue. So yes, we're on the Proverbs train. We're not going to be veering off until we finish. So tomorrow will be 10 to 12, and I'm excited. See you here. Bye.